So without further ado, please welcome Dimitri to the show. Welcome, Dimitri.
Well, thank you for having me on your show. It's a delight.
This is a dream, actually. You know, having a podcast and you have those dream guests and you're like, oh my gosh, he is one of those. And I am so grateful that you are here and that we've come to this place, and knowing that you're my neighbor.
Yeah.
And I just am grateful. So thank you for being my dream guest, and that you've allowed me to. You've come. That you say the teacher will appear when the student is ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is you and Barbara to me.
Yeah. Oh,
So
well,
it's been a really fun a journey learning about you, and what sparked me. And I want to get to your the way you started this journey. Is the auras. I met somebody, his name's Dominic Zenden from the UK, and I've had him on twice on the podcast, and he reads auras just like Barbara did when she was 4. So he had that same experience.
wow.
So it was fascinating for me to kind of compare, her story with his, and it's so similar.
Right.
And it's very, you think it's something so rare. And then once your reticular activating system starts to find all these other people that read auras. And it's been a really fun learning experience for me. So thank you.
Oh, yeah. Well, her story is fascinating.
Yes, go there. Tell everybody, because that's a really great way to start, and people understand how you both connected.
Right. So, of course, we write all these books, and the latest one is Heaven in Your Spiritual Evolution. And now we have the center with all these classes and workshops. But it started, Barbara grew up during the Depression era in the United States. Her father was a Greek Orthodox priest, and he was also a builder of churches. So the diocese would send him a certain area, literally get the congregation together, build up the church. Then they'd send him somewhere else. So this is a family of 6 kids, and they were moving all over the country, living on a priest salary, like $80 a month for all those kids,
Oh my gosh.
And Barbara's like the 5th one of 6. So like she said, as early as 3 years old, I didn't even know what that was, but I started to see all these energies and colors around people. First, it was my mother. Then I started seeing around other people, and then other things. She was having angelic visitations and literal experiences of going to the other side. She said, I knew I wasn't dying. I wasn't dreaming. These were real things that were happening. But she couldn't put it all together as far as what it all meant. Like with the aura, she would say, oh, I'd be attracted to somebody who had pretty colors and detracted to those who had not so great colors. And so it wasn't always a blessing seeing this, because let's say if your parents were arguing, you would see the discordant energy between them,
Right.
But at 11, when they're doing all this leapfrogging, they were in Kansas City, Missouri, and he was building a church there. She got involved in theater, of all things. And she was acting at 11 years old, with a theater stock company. And the woman that ran it, Dorothy Lamas, one time said, come in privately. I'm going to talk to you Saturday. And she thought, she's dropping me from the troupe. And then she started talking about completely different things, how you see things. I said, what do you mean I see things normal? She said, no, how do you see things? And then little Barbara knows, she's talking about that. And they said, you can see the aura, can't you? And Barbara's jaw dropped, said, I didn't even know the name. Is that what it's called?
Right.
Well, I can see the aura too. I'm a Hermetic scientist. My mother and grandmother are all Hermetic scientists. And I'd like to share with you a little bit about your gift to help you understand it better. So she would come in on Saturday privately. And she's had these handwritten Hermetic science books. Unfortunately, you can't get them on Amazon, and started to learn about the aura, what the colors meant, and about the spiritual worlds. And she said, just the whole world opened up to me. And it was a very exciting time for me. Now I could interpret and understand what was going on. Oh, the lemon yellow around your head. What does that actually mean? What does that say about you? Or the emerald green around your heart area. Then she moved to LA because her father was building 2 churches, one in Bakersfield, the other in Pasadena. And that was during the golden age of Hollywood. So 2 of her brothers were really talented. Actually, 3 of them were all talented, and they were starting to pursue. So she was getting involved in the showbiz world, and she thought that was going to be my world, and she was actually getting very successful at it, kind of putting on these variety shows. Oh, are we okay? Oh, okay.
Okay, wait, now we have to keep going because I paused it. So go back to what were you talking about?
So she came to LA during the golden age of Hollywood.
Okay, let's go there. So let's go there. So stop. No, we go. This is terrible. I hate this. There we go. Go ahead.
Great. And she came to LA during the golden age of Hollywood and thought that was going to be her career. She was actually producing variety shows at 19 years old and things of that nature. And she said, I was trying to be a normal person, not with all these gifts, because they kept increasing, but it kept coming back. And she had this lucrative offer, but the inspiration came in, no, this is not your path. You're meant to be a metaphysical teacher. So she took a very different turn. Eventually met another woman, a very high mystic, that started to prepare her to be able to teach. She said, you're going to go on the lecture platform. You're going to, and at the time, no one ever was interested in these things. Is who wants this? But that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
So it began a very, she said in those days, all I had to do was say the word, or she didn't need to do any marketing. People just ran to hear about it. It was very an open field. So she's truly one of the pioneers in the whole arena. And LA at that time was quite a mecca for those kinds of things.
Right.
It still is, although even San Diego now I think is even more almost. Now I, interesting enough, went to LA too, to be in film and television. And I went to NYU to study that. And it was directing and writing and things of that nature. And it was actually going well. And, but I was not brought up, it was interesting, I was brought up Greek too, but not metaphysical or spirit or sort of religious. We went to Easter, things like that. I was baptized, but not like going to church every Sunday. So I wasn't averse to things spiritual, but I also wasn't really exposed to it. It was much more artistic. I was playing piano, classical piano, those kinds of things. But I was having, as I was coming to LA, I was having these, I call them my inspiration moments, where I was kind of in a different place, but it was a very beautiful place. It was very insightful, and it would kind of go by itself. I had no control over it. And they got so strong, it just led to this very dramatic spiritual awakening.
What does that mean? What do you mean by that? What did it mean?
Being in a very, very different consciousness. Now, it wasn't like a clairvoyant experience, but it was literally being in another state. But this state didn't really exactly leave. It just changed my perspective on life altogether. But I still didn't have a name for it. I still didn't understand what was going, but I knew it was profound, and I knew it was good, and it was giving me insights into things. And then when they said, oh, you had a metaphysical awakening, I couldn't get enough of it. And I was, just delved, but I didn't delve into groups yet. Something said, stay away. And then interestingly enough, one time an old girlfriend said, oh, I know you're interested in this stuff. And, there's this woman, she's going to do a meditation when I hadn't even done meditation yet at a dinner. Would you like to come? And at first I was going to say, no, I don't. But then some said, go. And It was Barbara, and she did this meditation. It was like opening this ancient door again. And afterwards, I had a lot on my mind. So I guess I was pouring questions out, trying to put it all together. I thought we were having a nice conversation. She says I was interrogating her. But I realized as I was talking to her, oh my God, she was so understated, just very most matter of fact, that I realized, oh, she's talking from her own experiences. This is not something she read in a book, and then when she's talking about the heaven worlds and her experiences there, I said, okay, I think I found the one I need to study with.
Oh, I love that.
And we jumped right in, but we also realized soon we both like to write. So we got involved with that. And then there was something else. It was more than just a student. I was meant to help the mission. And, it took a little while, but then after a while I said, look, we gotta organize all this. At that point, Barbara had no books, nothing. It was just all this library of notes, and we started to organize into what became the Institute. But then I didn't realize, oh, she's training me now to be a teacher myself and develop these inner gifts. I was happy being a student up to that point. And then that started a whole different trajectory. So I tell people, it is true, follow your bliss, because it may not be the end of the road wherever you go, but it's taking you to the next spot. If I never went to LA, if I never followed the film career, even that wasn't my my end up
Right.
destiny, I wouldn't have been where I am today. So you really do have, and it was a chance. I mean, I could have had a very cozy life in Chicago where my family was, but no, something said you gotta go on this adventure.
Right.
So sometimes you gotta break the mold and follow where you need to be. Again, I could have easily still had a career in film and still follow the metaphysical, but it also, in my case, was to actually be a metaphysician.
Right. But I always say your intuition, that voice in your head that is telling you to go there.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
how many people ignore that and just sit there because it's the fear stops them, or they don't
Exactly.
know the unknown,
Exactly.
or all those things.
Or the
And
intellect says, well, that doesn't make sense, or whatever, that's not, why would you take a chance on this?
right,
But if you look, even those that are successful in the material, they're chance takers.
right,
They're willing to risk it all.
right.
You don't climb a big mountain without taking some risk.
No, exactly. So you go through, you meet Barbara, you feel like we're connected for a reason. We're gonna start this program or this institute, and you're gonna start teaching. And you started with the Aura book, Change Your Aura, Change Your Life.
Right, right. Because that's the foundation. And Barbara had all these notes. She was trying to write the book for years, and she had just volumes of notes again. And I thought, oh, this book will write itself. But it wasn't so easy at first, because it took a little while to realize, actually, it's not first a book about the aura. It's first a book about meditating with the aura.
Right,
Because in the book is this meditation technique of working with the auric energies. And then once we realized it's really a meditation book, then the book started to write itself. Everything that was the hook. And then we tell people that's what that book tells the world. What we do, we meditate with divine light. And
right,
it's different than doing, let's say, a mantra meditation, or even an intentional meditation, or a breathing meditation. It is more involved. There's more of an art form to it, but it offers so much. I've been doing this now almost 40 years, and it just keeps getting better and more profound and all of that. So all of the classes, all the teachings, everything Barbara did and everything we do at the Institute, that meditation process is the foundation of all of it.
right. I've been interviewing people lately a lot in the last probably 20 episodes, where it led them to their spiritual journey is when they realized how important meditation was, and when that became a daily practice. And it wasn't something that, oh, I don't have time for. They realized it wasn't even about that. It's like this drug that's addicting and that's free, that takes me to this place of, we always talk about, prayer is the asking God, and listening to God is through meditation.
Yeah,
And when I hear
exactly.
the Aura book, and I was reading that, listening to that on the Audible, and understanding the way you bring in the divine light and how you can change your auras, and like looking the way that I learned from Dominic, it's a different approach, but same, like the layers and the chakras, and the different but to change your aura, like when you were saying, people trying to find love, putting pink, do you describe I want to go through this little bit of aura, just because my listeners have heard it before. So maybe this will give a different take on it.
Right. Well, let's say the love ray, that is a great place to start. So let's say you are looking for, well, the love ray could be used for so many things. If you're just feeling unloved yourself, or you have low self-esteem, or any of those things. But let's say you are looking maybe to attract somebody or get involved. There's nothing more attractive than love.
Right.
You're, as Barbara would say, when you're looking for somebody else, the first thing you should look for is compatibility. The energies have to work together, or it's not going to be any type of lasting relationship. But if you don't have the energy of love in you, and it's how can you bring it out? How can you express it out? So let's say maybe you don't have as much as you would like. So what you can do is you can bring in the deep rose pink. It's a ray of spiritual love. Now, this is, again, not human. This is divine love. This is the unconditional love. And you bring it into your auric field. It kind of infuses your consciousness with more love. But you still have to go out there and be loving. You still have to go out there and do there. There was a doctor in one of the classes once, and he was very frank. He said, we have like goals and objectives that you do in the courses. And so, I think my goal is, I don't show enough attention to my patients. It's kind of like in and out and next one. I'm not, so you need to show more compassion. These are people, these aren't petri dishes,
Right.
And so he realized that. He brought in the deep rose pink, and later, and then he did it. He actually went out and took time to spend, he didn't rush with his patients so much. And he said, boy, not only are they seeing me in a whole different light now, but my practice has gotten even fuller. So
Right.
just blossomed everything, because if it's not in your aura, it can't show up in your life.
Right.
Being in LA for so many years and people wanting to be, actors and writers and this and that, and say, gee, can I make it? Can I be successful? And, sometimes Barb would look at the aura and say, well, you got to build more of the creative power. It's not strong enough yet.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're seeing things that are not in your life, it doesn't mean you can't make it happen, but you got to generate the power first. And then the divine law is, if it's in your aura, it will show up in your life if nothing has disturbed the energy.
Right. So when Barbara sees somebody, like I was listening to something there, like even with you with piano, like if there's something in your aura that's, she sees this talent.
Right.
Yes, you need to pursue that. And that's in you. Or her brothers were really successful as actors. And
Right.
she looked at their aura and wanted and kind of pushed them to
Well, interesting. Her oldest brother, Philip, was literally a world-class opera singer. And the mother recognized that early and helped him along. But she said, as I was watching him in his formative years, you could see the talent, but it kept getting stronger and stronger. And at one point, she just said in her own mind, oh boy, he's going to start his career soon. And he did.
Huh.
We go to school to build our skills, but we don't also realize we're building the actual power, so that when we go out into life, we can really make it happen.
Right. Yes. When you talk about we come here with a divine plan, or what is the word that you use? I wrote it down.
Purpose and potential.
Yes. Purpose and potential is your divine plan. Everyone has that.
Yeah. Well, we all have, it's actually called, it's interesting. We just, we have another book called Karma and Reincarnation. And in that book, we say, before you come into this earth, you're shown kind of the design of your upcoming life. Oh no. Gosh, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm not seeing anything on this end.
Yeah, I'm not either. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah.
When I talk about your divine plan, we all come with.
Oh, yeah. So we have another book, Karma and Reincarnation. And in that book, we talk about how before any of us are, well, first of all, we incarnate in this life, right? We had a life before we're here on this planet. This planet is like a school. We come here to learn, to grow, to evolve. We're not here forever. There's going to be an exit plan for us,
right,
as there was an entry plan. But before we start the whole journey, we're actually shown what's called this Tapestry of Life. And it has key elements that are in our design of our upcoming incarnation. Now, it's not fate. It's not like, oh, it's going to happen no matter what. It's a design. It's like a blueprint. Well, someone has to build the house. The blueprint can be there. So we have to weave the tapestry in our life, and key people in our life, key things that are meant to happen and are there. And two of the big ones, we differentiate what we call purpose and potential. So purpose is how you serve in the plan, the things you do with other people. If we have to build a cathedral together, well, who's going to be the stained glass maker? Who's going to be the mason? Who's going to do the door? Everyone has to play a part, and that's
right,
sort of like our purpose. Potential is a little something different. We're all climbing the spiritual ladder. We're all evolving our soul, and we all have a potential of how much of that bloom, that soul, can we bloom in this incarnation, and we call that the potential. So you want to do everything. We say there's no delight so sweet, no wine, no go to 100 places before you die. There's nothing more satisfying in life than knowing you have fulfilled your purpose and completed your potential. And
right,
when the divine is guiding you and supporting you, it's always trying to steer you in that direction. We don't go to the higher to ask for the winning races at the racetrack, the way
right,
go to the higher to ask, well, how can I fulfill, how can I serve more today? And that gives a lot of sense of purpose, even if we don't know what's around every corner. So if you're feeling like lost or disconnected, the presence of what you're meant to do is there, but somehow you either let life get a little bit discouraging or something distracted your attention, and kind of like the Tao, you've got to return back to the natural rhythm of life.
Right.
And then things will unfold and in their time. The other thing you have to remember is things don't always unfold in our time, but they do unfold in God's time.
Yes.
Sometimes we want to say, no, it's got to happen today, but you don't tell the rose, bloom today,
Right.
you give it the water, you give it the air, and it will bloom in its time. So there's seasons in our life when things are meant to happen. And if we simply kind of move with the flow of life, but still do all the things we need to pursue, then life will unfold and
Right.
it'll let the surprises happen. We want those surprises.
Yeah. I always look at, I think everything's perfect. Even I try to teach my clients, like if there's a, what do you call trauma or what, look at what that taught you. Like you're
Right.
going to look down the road and think, thank you, God, for that experience, because it's all perfect. But when you say we're here to live out our full potential, that means you want to live your full potential, because the way we leave here in our death of this body, our soul continues on that same trajectory. We're continuing climbing the mountain. Is that what you mean?
Like there's a saying, you want to leave this earth better than the way you found it. Well, you also want to leave this earth at a higher level of consciousness than when you started.
Right.
So there is an evolution that's going on right now. And this latest book, Heaven and Your Spiritual Evolution, that talks about Barbara's experiences on the other side. But the other side isn't just for the time when we die. We're connected to that greater life right this minute. And that other side, it has these many levels, it's tiered. So we're vibrating at a certain energy level all right now, and we're meant to increase it. Now, we're all growing at our own pace, but, and I'm sure many of your listeners and viewers, if you've had the spiritual calling, it means you are supposed to take that yoke of light. You are supposed to put your hands to the plow and not look back and take what they call sort of the accelerated path, where you're putting more time and attention to living the higher life. You have to walk the talk, but if you're aware of it more, you can hopefully do a better job of that.
Right. This whole time in our life, 2020, 2022 now, it's, I've seen such an evolution. I've seen this. I mean, my growth is expense. I mean, I used to think, oh, I'm so spiritual. I'm, every day meditating. And now it's like, whoa. And I know that this podcast and meeting people like you has made it go even further. But when you look at this time and you see, I've had the age of Aquarius and, all the different people talking about where we're going. You give me your take on that.
Well, I'm glad you're asking that. We started a series called The Compassionate Earth because a lot of people think, oh, we're, gloom and doom. The world's at the end, the sky is falling, we're all going to destroy ourselves. And we do see terrible things happening in the world, but that's not how the higher sees it. The higher see things as getting better, not worse. So we have to be careful. If you look at the last 100 years, just the quality of living of humanity on earth, it is dramatically increased from where it was.
Right.
How many people lived in poverty, abject poverty 100 years ago compared to today? No, it's still not where it needs to be. I'm not saying we're living in a perfect world, but the last 150, 200 years has been seismic. And that's part of this preparation for, yes, a spiritual renaissance. Now, for you and I to talk like this, even, 20, 30 years ago would have, been, or maybe 40 years ago, it would have been unheard of.
Right.
And to learn these things, you'd have to have been in an ashram or a mystery school. You'd have to be in one of these special places. So the fact that so many people are interested and it's not coming from just one part of the world or one person means there is this flowering of consciousness. And that's not accidental. That's part of the evolution of humanity. And yes, we are heading, we call it sort of the new day. There is a new era starting. We're not there yet. It's not happened yet, but we're moving in that direction. And there may be some setbacks before we get there, but we're moving in that direction. And right now it's more important than ever to stay close to your spiritual nature. As Barbara would say, there's never been a better time to grow spiritually than today.
Right. And do you look at it like, I was talking to somebody that it's almost like we won the lottery because we chose to come here at this time. Like there's these people that we chose to come here right now.
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
is amazing. Our souls
But we
decided
earned
to
it.
come.
We earned it. We
We
earned
earned it.
it.
Ah,
It didn't just happen, you know. We don't realize that we all have a rich spiritual heritage. And I would bet, you know, not knowing your past lives, but I would bet that this is not your first foray in metaphysics. So however you started your life, whatever triggered something clicked in, and then it's almost like a memory. Oh, I'm picking up where I left off.
yes,
You know,
totally.
I'm picking it. And that's why things seem to not only be absorbed quickly, but almost the familiarity, you know, like something, oh, yeah, I get this, I know this, you know. So that's connecting those dots, because now there's this major energetic shift that's happening. And we have to kind of be in that tide. And even if there's some rough days that come up, we can ride those days, because overall the arc is moving, you know, in this beautiful upward trajectory. And we are the generations that help lay the foundation for others to come to build this, as others before us did the same. I mean, Barbara's generation, they called it the greatest generation, right? I mean, they saved the world.
Right.
Also, you know, laid the foundation
Right.
for what we're doing now, and hopefully we'll leave a good foundation for the generations after us, and it will keep building. But the thing is, live close to your spiritual nature now. Live your best self. Don't worry about what other people are doing so much, or if they are living it, not living it. And even in your own family, you know, there may be even family members that say, what are you doing? This stuff sounds crazy to me. Just be true to yourself. You know, in the old,
Yes.
in the days when Barbara was teaching before I met her, she said the single biggest reason people would leave the work back then was at the insistence of a spouse.
Mm-hmm.
The one had the awakening, the other did not. It was almost like a jealousy. What are you getting involved with that for? You know, and you have to be true to you, and you continue to love those that are close to you, but be true to you. The good news is more are waking up together. I see a lot of couples now that are walking the path together. And yes, some are still a little bit, you know, I'm the only one doing this kind of a thing. And hopefully we can build better community in the days ahead to support each other.
Right.
That was
You
the
know,
advantage of the mystery schools. You were living with others who were on the same road as you.
right. That's why I'm so excited about finding you, and you're in
Yeah.
Encinitas. But, you know, with even with Richard and I, we're both on our own individual journeys, but I really believe that, and I'm raising two girls. When you
Oh,
raise your vibration,
how
and
old are they, if I may ask?
one's going to be turning 16 and the other one's 13.
Oh, wow. Very, very formative years times.
Oh, yes. And
Now, interestingly enough, 16.
I know what you're going to say, because I've
You
done my
know,
research, but tell me, because I was
well,
going to
you really
ask
have
you.
done your research. Yeah. Again, energetically, I'm not saying necessarily emotional maturity, but energetically, you are an adult at 16.
Right.
Because you have the fully engaged auric field then, which means you are now fully karmically responsible for your own actions. Now, up to that point, yes, the parent does carry some of that karmic burden because the child is still developing. But at 16 onwards, so this is a very, it's more than just sweet 16. This is a very important time. So hopefully the decisions she's making now are really going to help her, because she gets on the right road now at 16. It's going to be enormously helpful as she gets older,
Yes. Oh, I could cry when you talk about that, because she is.
Yeah.
And, I've been so intentional with her, parenting her as an older parent, having I had her when I was 37, and, I had all these, I was on my journey.
Right.
And, but I knew I wanted to teach her this stuff. So by the time now I never thought I'd have a 16-year-old, but now it's like, oh my gosh, I see the fruit of my labor, and
There you go.
but when I heard you
Congratulations.
talk about the auras, and like at 7, because we know like our limiting beliefs are, programmed up until 7, and, pretty much there you go. You have fun fixing those in your life.
Isn't that a scary thought that Barbie used to say, give me the first 7 years of a person's life, you can have the rest.
Right.
Because you're right, the patterns get set and the aura gets set.
Right.
Now, of course, you can change past that point, but it's effort. So yes, how you help that child in the first 7 years. And of course, the energy, remember, there's a full soul that comes in that little body. So they come in with their own inclinations. And then, you as a parent have a big role. Some keep asking things like, oh, what's my purpose? Look, and a lot of them have raised kids, says, look, you've already completed a chunk. one of the best jobs you'll ever have on earth is to be a parent.
Yes.
Because what are you doing? You are helping to usher another soul on earth so that they can fulfill their purpose.
Right.
So
I love your when you described about like when the parents get together and make a baby, but they went to the other plane, like the dream state, to talk to
oh
the
my goodness.
soul. We
Oh
talked.
yeah. No, oh wow. Okay. So actually we're going to do a workshop on sleep in the world of spirit in the fall. So people don't realize, they think, oh, I hear people having out of body experiences, and some say they're in this very heavenly place. I wish I could have something like that happen to me.
Right.
Well, you don't realize everyone on earth periodically is taken to the inner worlds for renewal and refreshing. And it most often happens while we sleep.
Mm-hmm.
One of my, what happened after starting to work with Barbara, one of my first experience was that, coming back the next morning and remembering, being in this majestic place. And so how do you know you weren't dreaming? Well, when you remember something that you did in the day, and when you dreamt something, it doesn't feel like, it's not the same thing. A
Right.
memory is very different from a dream. I know when you're dreaming it can be real, but then when you wake up, oh, it was just a dream.
Mm-hmm.
So memory is very different. So one of the things that does happen, like you say, yes, when a couple is getting ready to conceive a child, there's a karmic thing, because remember, there's no such thing as a purely biological pregnancy, because it's a soul coming into that baby's body. So the divine has to be involved if the pregnancy is to carry, if it's to happen. So that means there has to be a coordination. And yes, your children, you've met them in other, other lives, you've known your parents. So what happens is you're taken to the other side. The parents are going to be taken to the other side. And yeah, they literally meet the soul that's going to be their daughter or son, and there's an agreement. And then afterwards, shortly after, that's when the physical conception. So the decision happens before the actual conception happens. And then once a conception, it starts this amazing process of preparing this soul that was in a whole different world in life to now become the little baby and whatever they're going to be. And Barbara did share once that when she was still, single, and her children came to her, the souls, and came to her and said, we want you to be our parents.
Oh my gosh.
We want to be, yeah. So she knew it ahead of time. Now that's pretty rare, but I even remember when, I don't have children myself, but my brother, while he was engaged, we had lunch one time and Barbara was there, and she just casually said, oh my gosh, I see two souls that want to come through you, and maybe a third. And when they got married, they had 2 kids right away, and then one kind of a little bit later. So again, it was already in the, in the ethers. So yeah, it's a very sacred and beautiful thing.
Yeah. How do you describe old souls and that kind of thing? Are we old souls because we're interested in metaphysics, and we're like, I'm more interested, like I'm with you right now, and someone that I know at school that I'm going to see in a few hours, they're reading, like nothing about the spiritual journey.
But we have to be careful there. I want, there's some people that are living a more spiritual life, but don't use the word spiritual.
Right.
Than those that are, oh, I'm very spiritual, but the old expression of going to church on Sunday and cheating their partners on Monday.
Right.
So there's the facsimile, but old soul. So we all have this spark of life that is our soul. It's all equally precious. We're all equal in the eyes of the divine. We're all essential to the fact, but we're not all in the same evolutionary status. We're all growing at our own pace. And so there's souls that have had, let's say, more incarnations, more experiences. So those are older souls in the sense that they have experienced more, they've developed further, and they're supposed to help those that maybe are not as far along. There's that beautiful quote, never compare yourself to other people. You'll always be vain or bitter, because there'll always be people that are further along the road than you, and there'll always be people that are not as far along the road as you. Right. So it's not a race with other people. And unfortunately, sometimes this happens in the classes. Someone will come in and say, oh my God, I saw this light. I saw the blue-eyed fire. And the other person says, I saw nothing. I guess I'm not doing so good. And that doesn't mean anything there, but we all are in our own journey.
Right.
So it's not a race with other people, but I don't even want to say it's a race with ourselves, but you do want to make sure you're making every minute count. Barbara used to quote that line from the poem If by Rudyard Kipling. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So you just want to make best use of the time that you have here.
Right. And so we're all one. We're all God. Explain God, because I was listening to something.
Oh my gosh. How much time do we have?
Well, but you know, people like, so my girls go to a Christian school.
Okay.
And they were raised, you know, I'll say things that I believe, and they're like, Mom, I didn't learn, that's not what we were taught at school. And it's whatever. I mean, I'm all about, there's no judgment. I love to talk about that stuff, but I believe that we're living in, you know, heaven, and, you know, they don't see that. So we have a lot of conversations around that because of the way they were in school. But, you know, with God, you know, that people just have that different interpretation. And I'd love for you to share that.
So the metaphysical perspective on God?
Sure.
That's a massive topic.
It is. Okay, then don't go there.
Yeah, only in the sense that, you know, you could say in the world today, there's a lot of redefining or re-understanding of God, right? Because there's been often a very structured understanding of what God is. And of course, when we're talking about the infinite, human understanding will always be imperfect. And there's no institution that can say, hey, I've got the handle on what God's all about. Right. Because you're talking about the creator of all that is, been, and as ever will be, you know. So the key is we are these, you know, infinite sparks of life, meaning your soul, my soul, has always existed and always will. Now, it may not always exist in human form, but it will always exist. When it came time to have the human experience, long before we began any incarnation, we were born of God in this human experience. We were born in this highest celestial kingdom, but we were like infants. We were just babies, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. And God said, you know, for you to learn and grow, you need to go out into creation. So God planted us in the garden of creation, not because we were bad or evil or anything like that, but we had to learn. We had to learn in the experience of life. And the whole evolutionary process is to get back to that divine source from where we came, but not as infants, as fully matured humans, co-creative, participating in the spiritual processes of life. So we're trying, you know, in metaphysics, we talk about enlightenment. Enlightenment is the experience of the God within. We live in God by faith now. We say, I'd be willing to die for God. I'll do anything for God. We're doing that as an act of faith, an act of sensing, I know God is, but not saying like Yogananda would say, seeing God face to face while in the physical body. Mm-hmm. But through the process of enlightenment, you do have that awakening, and now you know God is. One of my own early experiences of being on the other side was, yes, being in this beautiful environment, you know, very idyllic, rolling hills and buildings and things like that. But that wasn't what was so startling. It was the godly presence. It was everywhere. It was in the atmosphere. You didn't question if God existed. Now, when I came back, of course, I was in a high for days after that experience, just being there. But also I realized later, oh, they were teaching me something. Mm-hmm. They were saying you have to bring that vibration, that godly vibration that you experience in that realm, you need to bring it where you are right now, here in your physical life. We got to build, you know, heaven isn't just a place, it's a state of consciousness. Right. As we say in chapter 1 of the book, you don't go to heaven, you grow.
Grow, yes.
So you got to once you are that heavenly vibration here, mm-hmm. then it will correspond to that level there. And we'll all eventually get there. Maybe not all in this life, but it takes many lifetimes, just like you could have the best grade in first, second grade, but it doesn't mean you're ready for your PhD yet, right? You still have to go through all the grades of learning, all the evolution. There are many spiritual dimensions of life that lead into heaven. And in the Heaven, Your Spiritual Evolution book, we found this great, I don't know if you've ever been to Quest Haven here in the,
No, I haven't.
oh, it's worth going there. It's
Oh,
a
good.
Flower Newhouse. She was a Christian mystic, and he worked there for years. He's an artist, and he did the illustrations for us. And we tried to show the stages as you go through the astral, the mental, the causal, the etheric, and eventually the heavenly. And each stage, you're unfolding some facet of your mystical nature. You're trying to awaken this inner mystical life and bring it to full bloom.
Right. Do you, you talk about the astral plane and but that's where you, like we go there in our dreams, the astral plane. That's how close it is to us.
Well, not every night necessarily, but during our sleep, we can be taken there. The astral worlds are literally, when we finish this life, that's the first place we're going, the astral worlds. And yeah, there are realms that are so Earth-like, people who don't think about these things and do cross over, they don't think they've died because, oh, I'm seeing you, you look fine to me, I see me, look, everything seems normal. And then when they realize they're not where they think they are, that's when they do go into shock. You know, that's often why when you hear stories about when people died, loved ones are there, a big reason loved ones are there is so that they don't go into shock, you know, that it's okay that you've passed on, you know, look, I'm doing okay. I've been here a lot longer than you. I was your grandpa on Earth, you know, or whatever. So it helps you to feel, oh, okay, I can settle down. It's okay that this happened to me and that I can make the transition. So studying the other side is helpful here because when it is our time to cross over, it is a smoother, it's like, again, as Barbara said, it's like going from one country to another. It's really, we have made transition such a thing to fear and dread. Oh, I'm dying. I love Woody Allen's line, you know, I'm not afraid of dying. I just don't want to be there when it happens.
Right.
You know, it really is natural. We've done it many times. You look at the animals, they seem to handle it pretty well, you know, and we just get fearful of it because it feels like this giant unknown, but it's very much a continuation of here. You're not suddenly a great saint when you cross over, you know, or whatever, but you do go to the level that you've earned the right to be at. So going back to the aura, in addition to reflecting everything that's going on in your life, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, it's the fuel of your spiritual ascent. So the more power you build in your auric field, the higher in consciousness you can climb. So the most, again, I'm quoting a lot Barbara today, but one of her most strongest quote is, your passport to eternity is the light you earn. It's more important than anything. Say you won't take your fame, your fortune, your good looks to the other side, but you will take your light. Yes. And that's the part that you have to be able to be connected.
Yeah, I love that. When you talk about angels and guides, and I know they're not God, and you talk about the hierarchy of help.
Yes. Oh, wow. That's another giant area.
We can end there. We can shorten it up. We have a few minutes, but if you could end on that, would that be?
Well, you know, writing the new book was an interesting challenge because when you were doing the aura book, you just focused on the aura. We write on karma, we wrote there, on healing there. And yes, we wrote a book on the angels. So it's kind of segmented. But with talking about evolution, you have to pull all these things together, the aura, reincarnation, and the spiritual hierarchy, because we're not figuring this out on our own. We have guidance. So the angels, the archangels, they are helping us in our evolution. And they're as much a part of nature as the flowers and the trees. There's a beautiful line in the Talmud that says, for every blade of grass, there's an angel bending over saying, grow.
Yeah.
So we have that beautiful connect. They're not just, you know, nice Hallmark cards, you know.
Right. But, you know, I always, you know, I'm very much into numbers and angels and archangels. And I've had a lot of people on the podcast with that, those gifts. But the way you talk about it is different. And I don't know why I'm saying it's different, but I feel like you talk about, you know, there's a process of connecting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you give people a little process before we end, and then we'll.
Yes. So it's one thing if we're communicating with a person from the other side. You know, if let's say a relative comes around you favorite grandmother or whatever that is not around. But when you're communicating with things like the angels and archangels, they're not human. They can appear human-like, but they can't interact with us the same way we interact with each other. So what they teach us is, look, we'll do 3/4 of the work. We'll step down our vibration to meet you, but you have to do your part. You have to step up your vibration to meet us. And in the aura, as you know, I'm sure from your done such a good job studying, there's a chakra point about 2 feet above the head. And that chakra point is your higher nature. And that's your link to the holy ones. You connect with them through there. So you have to, when Moses, went before the divine in the form of the burning bush, first thing the whole divine said, take your shoes off. The ground on which you stand is holy. We cannot approach them with all our baggage, so to speak. We have to let all of it go and go to them for the sheer pleasure of being one with them. And then what needs to come through will come through. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Oh, Dimitri, you've been a blessing to be on the show. I mean, I could keep going. I know I bring big subjects, but
yeah, no, well, you're a deep thinker and also extremely well researched. So that's excellent.
oh, but so people can find you at the Spiritual Arts Institute.
Right. Spiritualarts.org, spiritualarts.org. And again, we are right here in Encinitas, and we do have classes online. We are doing, I'm so glad you talked so much about the aura. We have a course coming up on Change Your Aura, Change Your Life, the book, where you get to learn the actual meditation technique.
Yeah. Yes. I love, I don't know if auras are all of a sudden in my life so much because of this, meeting people, but when you understand the power of that and understanding the meditation that you teach on, if people, that's a tool and that they need to put in their toolbox.
It's the foundation of everything.
Yes.
Meditation and working with the aura is the foundation of your whole growth process.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's not a little thing. It's the cornerstone of metaphysics, the auric field. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you for being here. Sorry for all the funky.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you'll do a brilliant job.
It'll be fine.
You're ready to, publish it, and we'll get it out to our people too.
I will. Thank you so much, Dimitri.